it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video, which is a very overdue September and October wrap up. I'm finally getting around to making this video. I do think because this is 2 months worth of books, it's probably gonna be a long one. You should definitely get a drink or a snack. And I am also gonna try to make this relatively fast because the majority of books that I'm gonna talk about today, I actually have vlogs to go along with. Let's dive in, and I'm going to start with the books that I read on my Kindle that I don't have physically, basically so that I don't forget them. First things first, I did go visit my sister in October. While I was there, I actually read quite a few books. On my Kindle, I read the first book in the Freckled Fate trilogy, which is A Broken Promise. This is a fantasy novel. I gave it 3.5 stars. It is good and I did enjoy my time reading it, but I am like 99% sure it's this author's first novel, and you can tell sometimes, you know, like there's just a couple of things here and there that I think needed to be fleshed out and defined. I honestly am having like kind of a hard time even describing it because things are like a little bit nebulous. So basically we're following this girl and she was a slave, and we're in this world. There is magic. There are 3 types of magic. There are healers, there are people that can like create things or like modify objects, and then there are destructors who have this like super powerful magical flame that can basically destroy anything. All of the destructors work for the crown, and so it's a very like authoritarian country. Here's the thing that gets confusing is like I'm not entirely sure why this girl is a slave. Like I don't necessarily have a good feel for like the overall world and how the politics work in that. It definitely seems a little bit nebulous. Hi. Do you hear me working? You wanted to come know what I'm doing? So we're following this girl. She's a slave in a quarry, and then when she's at the quarry, she is selected to be taken to like transferred, I don't know, whatever, as a slave for like the general of this like destructor army. That's basically like a death sentence. To make this long story short, she ends up escaping and she meets up with a woman who is an assassin, and she begins training her to be an assassin. And our main character basically like she wants revenge for like the people that enslaved her, that killed her family, and the destructor general dude. It's a pretty basic setup, and I will say like I did have a good time. I did like this. I do think it is a good book, and I think I'm gonna give book 2 a chance because I would like to see how the story progresses, and I would like to see if there's any improvement in the writing. In addition to the world needing to be like a little bit more fleshed out, I also think some of the characters need to be fleshed out, mainly like the side characters. They just felt a little one-dimensional to me. This is good for someone's first novel, and I am planning on continuing this series to see how it goes, but I do think things need to be a little bit more fleshed out. Also at my sister's, I read The Wolf King on my Kindle. This is available on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I also gave this 3.5 stars. It's a good book. It is a fun time. It's kind of basic. Like, it's a medieval fantasy. We've got, you know, the princess, and she is a human, and then like the humans and like the werewolf shifters are fighting with each other. They're constantly fighting. The human princess is engaged to this like super evil dude, and he lives like on the border between the 2 countries, and when they capture werewolves, they force them to fight in fighting pits. So the princess is forced to watch these fights, and then like she just kind of gets fed up and she's like, stop it, whatever, and she ends up saving the love interest's younger brother's life, and then she gets kidnapped by the wolves and like taken back to, you know, the wolves' territory. It's a very basic story. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like any part of this story like broke the mold for anything, but I will say that it was really fun the whole time. Hear me out with this. You know, sometimes when like you just want something something like comforting, and you kind of want something that like you know what's gonna happen, because like it's kind of like soothing and comforting, and like there's no anxiety when you read it. That was kind of this book. The entire time I was reading it, I was entertained and I was having fun. It was a really good time. So honestly, I do recommend this book. Set your expectations going into it. Like, it's not gonna blow your mind, but like you will be entertained and you will have fun. The third book that I don't have physically is Bride of Brutal Hearts, and this one we can be pretty brief about because I read this during the Magical Readathon, and so I do have thoughts on that in my week 2 and 3 vlog. So I actually didn't rate this book. I found it off of an Instagram reel where this girl was talking about why choose fantasy romance where the boyfriends are also boyfriends, and this is a vampire one, and I really love vampire stories. And I actually didn't rate this because there were parts of this book that I really strongly disliked, but there were also parts of it that really worked. In this world, basically like the vampires are in charge of the country, and they control the whole human population, and they also control the witch population. The world itself is pretty interesting because there's like vampires, witches, humans, and demons. That was one of the parts that I did like, is the world building of it all. But basically, like, the vampires keep the humans as livestock. It is not a good situation, to put it very mildly. They have this like lottery system where they just draft people and they're like, okay, you guys are coming with us. And our main character ends up volunteering in place of her sister because her sister is pregnant. And because she is a volunteer, the vampires can like use that status for like this special ceremony that they have to do for reasons that if you want, you can read the book for. And so she becomes the vampire king's two kings. She becomes their bride. The main issue that I had is that there really is zero consent between any relationships between humans and vampires because all of the humans are enslaved. I'm not arguing against having books that are like dubious consent or non-consent. There are reasons that authors write those stories, and if you don't know about why authors would write like non-consent stories or consent, non-consent, or dubious consent, do yourself a favor, go do the research on that, because like there are multiple and there are very valid reasons why people write and consume those stories. However, in this instance, it was not framed as that type of a story. It was framed as this is consent, but like there is no consent when you are literally someone's property. We get some flashes of resistance, but not enough in my opinion. I don't know if I'm going to continue this series, to be perfectly honest. But I will say I like the main character. Like, I like her, and I also like her as a character. The love interests, I do not like them, but from a character point of view, I was fascinated by them. And that's one of the things that like kept me reading, is like I was just fascinated by watching these three characters interact with each other. That's how I felt about that. Do what you want with that information. Okay, now we're going to talk about the books that I have physically in no particular order. So first up is The Gate of the Feral Gods by Matt Dinniman. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl book 4. I also am going to try to be short with this one. First of all, because it's the 4th book in a series, but also I do have a Magical Readathon vlog where I read this. I gave this 4.5 stars. There was a lot of progression of characters in here that I really liked. I like seeing Donna and Carl grow and learn and change, and I also really liked that we're seeing more and more resistance from the humans. If you don't know, this is like aliens invaded and most of the humans are dead, and they're forcing the majority of the remaining humans to go through this dungeon crawl where most of them die, and it's televised to like the entire galaxy. This book, like all the others, was just so incredibly entertaining. I've said it before and I'll say it again, this series is the most entertaining series I've ever read in my entire life. And this is definitely my favorite book in the series so far. Like I said, I gave it 4.5 stars. It was really great. And yeah, if you want to know more thoughts, just go check out my Magical Readathon vlog week 4. Also, while I was at my sister's house, I read Cold Clay by Juno Black. This is book 2 in the Shady Hollow mystery series, and the reason I read this is because my sister and I read book 1 together. Every year, my sister and I like to buddy read a couple of mystery stories. She absolutely loves the mystery genre, and this is like a fun, cozy one. It is a cozy mystery where all of the characters are animals. It's set in like the small town of Shady Hollow. In this series, you follow Vera Vixen, who is a fox, and she is a reporter for the local newspaper. In book 1, she helps solve a murder. In book 2, we stumble across a cold case and find, I mean, it's another murder, but like a much older one than in book 1. This is very cozy. It's very fun. Unfortunately, I think I like book 1 better than book 2 in this case, and I gave book 1 3 stars. This I actually think I'm gonna give 2.5. I mean, I say I'm gonna, like I already did. Unfortunately, I think the mystery was just better constructed in book 1. Now, the mystery isn't one that's gonna like gag you or like have any crazy plot twists. Like, this is very much meant to be fun and cozy and silly, and it does live up to all of that. I just think the mystery in book 1 was better crafted. And I also like, there was this like weird kind of like undertow with Vera Vixen's internal monologue in this book. I just didn't like, and I found it weird, where she was kind of like not like other girlsing herself. It was almost like she was trying too hard to be a feminist, but like also talking down about other women type of vibe that I just didn't really like in this book. That wasn't present in book 1, and I'm hoping that like if my sister and I continue this series, which we may or may not, I don't know, I'm hoping it won't be present in book 3. But if you're looking for like a whimsical, fun, cozy time, then I definitely think that like this could be a book that you enjoy. Just like don't expect too much from the mysteries in this series. It's very much about the vibes and the fun and the silliness over like gagging you on a mystery. Next up to talk about is Swordheart by T. Kingfisher. I gave this 4 stars. I read this in my reading romance until I'm no longer depressed vlog. I loved this. This is so fantastic. This is about a woman who falls in love with a man whose spirit has been bound to a sword, and they go on this quest to try to get her inheritance back from her ex-husband's family, who are full of slimy little scummy people. It's such a good time. It's a fun little romp of an adventure. I really, really like the characters in here. It's silly. It has T. Kingfisher's like signature humor throughout the entire book. It's just a really good time. Again, I'll have that vlog linked down below so that you can check out my thoughts on all of those books. In the same vlog, I read Blood Slumber by Vella Roth, and then I ended up picking up this teeny tiny paperback copy. This I gave 3 stars to. I still enjoyed it, but like there's just not a lot here. You know what I'm saying? This is set in the Bloodgrace universe. Bloodgrace is my favorite, all-time favorite fantasy romance series, and one of my favorite series just period. I love it. But this is just a little novella. It is a Sleeping Beauty gender swap retelling, but like they're vampires, so there's obviously like some twists here and there. But our main female main character wakes up our main male character because she wants some revenge and needs a vampire's help for it. It's a fun time. I do recommend it, especially if you already like the Bloodgrace world. And I also think that like this is a really low commitment if you wanted to kind of test the waters to see if you like Vella Roth writing, which I highly recommend. Again, in that reading romance vlog, I read Direbound. I gave this 3.5 stars. Since I have sat with this book, I have decided that like I'm definitely gonna continue on in this series because I actually am I can't wait to find out what's gonna happen. I thought like the ending of this book was really strong. Again, go watch that vlog, see all of my in-depth thoughts. I talk a lot about this book, like way more than I should have. It's a really long vlog. But in this, we're following our main character, Marin, and she enlists in the army, and she ends up bound to a dire wolf, and she ends up in training with the army's like special super elite forces. They're called the Bonded, and all of them are bonded to a dire wolf, and this is very dangerous. The trial process is not one that everybody makes it through. Marin is a very super special, extra special lady, and it's a fun time. I gave it 3.5 stars. I liked it. Now for my favorite book that I read in the past 2 months, The Memory of Souls by Jen Lyons. Oh my goodness, I am obsessed with this series. I love it so, so, so much. What is it about? Like, I really can't even tell you. This is an adult epic high fantasy series, and it's one of those series where like there's literally so many moving parts that I just can't even tell you what the plot is. We have thieves, assassins, immortal beings, gods, giant dragons that are causing chaos, demons, magical horses. Don't call them horses because they'll get really mad about that. Sea monsters, magicians that might destroy the entire world. We have brain-sucking mimics. And then on top of all of that, we have one of my favorite tropes of all time in fantasy, when people a billion years ago royally forked everything up, and now our main characters have to deal with it in the present day. I love that. I eat that shit up every single time. This is easily going down in my favorite fantasy series of all time. Like, I just love it. The characters in here, I love them so much. Even the villains I love. Like, I'm just so attached to this series. If you take one recommendation, please give this series a try. It's so, so, so good. If you do want more thoughts, I do talk about this in my Magical Readathon vlogs, but I am very vague in those vlogs because this is the third book in a series, and so there's just not much I can say about it. So next up, we're going to talk about Lady of Ashes by Melissa K. Rorick. This is the third book in the Lady of Darkness series, and I actually did read this on Kindle Unlimited, but I found out that this and the Legacy series are getting traditionally published, and they are changing the covers of the series of the Lady of Darkness. Not like a lot. I don't know. I just really like the indie covers. There's just something about them that is just really appealing to me. Probably like just how simple they are. So, despite the fact that I'm only 3.5 books out of the 5 books into this series, I did buy all 5 of the books because I wanted to have the indie covers. In this series, you follow Scarlet, who has been trained her entire life to be an assassin, but before the start of book 1, something quite traumatic happens, and then in book 1, Scarlet is kind of like banished, sort of. It's really hard to describe because the premise of book 1 is just so vastly different from literally the entire rest of the series. It's just so hard to talk about. In book 1, Scarlet is dealing with like a lot of trauma, and I will just say that the romance in this book is not dark. It's not like a dark romance, but it is a dark fantasy. I do think you should check the content warnings of this series before you start it, because there are a lot of heavy topics, and Scarlet and her friend group and the trauma that they go through and the healing journey is a major plot point within this series. In book 1, Scarlet meets a commander of the army, of like the army's special forces, because she just kind of doesn't know what she's doing anymore. She's kind of in exile. She convinces him to train her. She is extremely proficient in like her assassination techniques, so she knows how to use a lot of weapons, but he has like a different style of combat. At the end of book 1, the entire world explodes, and we learn a whole bunch of things that I can't tell you, that are honestly very obvious if you read the book. They're very obvious, but it's also one of those things where like you, the reader, know what's gonna happen, but watching it unfold is just really, really entertaining. So you're just flipping the pages. It's a little bit messy. Obviously there's a romance between Scarlet and this commander that she meets. At the end of book 1, like I said, the whole world explodes, not literally. That's why book 2 and 3 they're just completely different. Every piece of the puzzle is like in a different spot in book 2 and book 3. And we continue Scarlet's story. She does, I think, a lot of personal development in this. Honestly, at this point, this is not a fantasy romance book. This is just a fantasy book where Scarlet has a boyfriend. There's a lot going on. I gave this 4 stars. I really like this series, obviously, because I like it enough to read it on Kindle Unlimited and then buy the entire series. Another 4-star read is What Hunger by Catherine Dang. This is an adult horror. So we're following this girl, and she is the second child of this immigrant family, and her brother is very much the golden child of the family, but then he tragically dies in a car accident. And after that, I will just say, I'm gonna put spoilers on the screen because I do think that this is a very mild spoiler, but I also think it's important that you know going into it so that you can protect yourself. I'll put that on the screen, just skip ahead until that's no longer there if you don't want to know. After her brother dies, she goes to a party and she is raped at that party. After that, we're no longer in the spoiler section anymore. Our main character starts having some interesting cravings. I did really like this, and I did give it 4 stars, and I want to say that I do understand the comparison to Jennifer's Body, but I just want to make it clear the vibes of Jennifer's Body in this are completely different. If you read the book, I think you'll get why they are compared, but like the vibes are totally different. But I do recommend it if you like adult horror. And I did also just want to say that this book is very sad. It's real depressing. Another sad book that I read for the Magical Readathon is Beasts of a Little Land by Joo-Hae Kim. This is a historical fiction set in Korea. It is set when Japan is occupying Korea, and it is one of those stories that like kind of spans these characters' entire lives. So you start off with a girl who is an apprentice courtesan, and then you are also following this boy whose father is a hunter, but then his father is killed. So he runs away to the city and kind of gets involved with like this street gang of kids at the city. And then it's about how these characters' lives evolve and how their stories weave together and apart at various times. I gave this 3 stars, and here's the thing. I understand what this book is saying, and I want to make it very clear that like I get the point of this book, and I do think that there are people that would read this and rate it 5 stars and absolutely love it. When I finished this book, I was kind of left with the feeling of what was the point? Like, this book did kind of make me feel depressed, and I finished it and I was like, that's a book that I read. The writing was really beautiful. I definitely would give this author another try, but like this was just not the book for me. I just honestly did not have a good time reading this book. There's also like a lot of time skips in this book, and every single time we had a time skip, it made me less and less attached to the characters, and so that also drove my enjoyment of the book down. So it's 3 stars. I do see why people love this book, and I understand it, and I see why it was written, just not for me, unfortunately. Now, a book that definitely was for me, A Curse Carved in Bone by Danielle L. Jensen. This is the sequel and the concluding part of the saga of the Unfated duology, and I gave both books in this series 4 stars, but I definitely think that this one is stronger. I absolutely ate this up. Again, I do talk about this book in a vlog if you want to know more in-depth thoughts, but this is a Viking-inspired fantasy romance where the main character has a drop of God's blood, and she is a shield maiden, and there is a prophecy about whoever controls her fate will rule the kingdom. So obviously all of the powerful men want to get control of her. I just really loved this book. First of all, I loved how our main character solves some of the problems at the end, and when, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I know that that doesn't make any sense if you haven't read the book, but if you have, then you know what I'm talking. Like, I loved that part. I thought that she was just so smart and so clever. And what I really also love about this is, first of all, book one is very meandering, and our main character Freya is being torn in a whole bunch of different directions by different people and like their motivations. And I do like a meandering storyline, don't get me wrong, but what I really liked is in book two, Freya really solidifies who she is and like stands up for herself and claims her own agency and claims her own power. I think that this is such a strong conclusion to this duology. And I also like that the ending of it kind of left the world open, where like I don't think Danielle L. Jensen would ever continue Freya's story, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got like maybe another duology set in this world following different characters, and like we could see Freya make an appearance in that. That would be fun. And the last book to talk about, which again isn't a vlog if you want to know more in-depth thoughts about it, but it's We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Barry. This was such a good book. So good. I rated it 4.5 stars. It's so close to being a 5-star book. So this is a weird one. This is set in Massachusetts in the late 1980s, and we're following this field hockey team, this varsity field hockey team at a high school, and they are not good. And so then they get the idea that maybe they should make a pact with darkness for their senior year so that maybe they could start winning games. And it's just like a weird, fun, campy book. Like, this book is so campy, it's so quirky. I had such a good time, and it's also really interesting because the whole book is like a hive mind of these different players. So they'll be like, we went to practice, and everything is like we. It's so interesting. I think it's fantastically written. I love the commentary in here. I really like this, and it's really interesting. And even though like the writing style and the plot are very different, I will say that I think if you like the vibes and the camp in My Best Friend's Exorcism, then I think that this is a book that you should definitely check out, because I think they're for the same audience. I really like this. I highly recommend this book. I just think it's so good. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. If you want to know more in-depth thoughts about these books, I will have all of the vlogs that they are in linked in the description box, so you can check those out. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I have some more vlogs coming, including my yearly vampire vlog that will be coming. Thank you for spending time with me today. I hope that you stay safe this week. I hope you stay warm, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.